everyone. Welcome to CED Office Hour Live. This is the Community and Economic Development Team Program for Central State University Extension, where we talk about all things CED. And joining us today will be Dr. Brian Walker, who will be our guest speaker. On the screen, as you already see, is Eric Smith and Ambrose Moses of our team. And before we get started, as always, I always like to give the definition of community and economic development so that everybody knows the foundation. So we're starting from the same point, right? So community and economic development deals with how we live, work, play, thrive, and how we navigate through all those spaces. So, one end of community economic development is the infrastructure dealing with affordable housing, building highways, buildings, development of public spaces for communities to use, parks, all of those kind of things. The other end is the people development. It's youth employment, um, employment for outreach, workforce development. It's personal development, right? Professional development, self empowerment, helping people to be self sufficient. And then the connector between the two, which are the businesses and organizations that help us navigate through all of that, help to bring life that. And then based on our particular skill sets, we look at where we can plug and play to make improvements into that system, connect the businesses and organizations to the people, and even help build that infrastructure so that what can we do? Live, work, and play and thrive, right? So that's what we do. As CED professionals here at Central State University Extension, we work closely with communities, with businesses, organizations, and even our colleagues here at Extension, and we listen to what their needs are, and then we come up and we create, we develop, we facilitate how to address that issue, so that we can what, live, work, and play and thrive, right? And then we work ourselves out that business. So what we do is, our goal is to empower people so that we're kind of that trainer. And once we leave, those training wheels are off, as our former colleague used to say, take those training wheels off and you go forth. And with that, now we're head back, and when they need us for something new, then we come back. But our goal is not for them to be dependent on us, is to be a go-to as they want to progress in whatever their goals and aspirations are. So today we will be talking about building resilience and growing your business during and post a pandemic. And I am graciously, I'm glad that Dr. Walker has graciously accepted. Now I really had to pull him hard like the big, but anyway, seriously, we joke around a lot. But he was willing to come on the show and share his experiences. And to give you a little bit of background about his experience, and I'm just going to give a couple bullet points because he has such a long background, a lot of accolades. We could talk an hour just on that, and we wouldn't get to the subject. But he has a bachelor's of science and communications from Wheaton College, a master's in theology from Cincinnati Christian University, and has his doctorate of ministry from, was it, to get doctor of ministry from United Theological Seminary. In addition to that, he has served as an adjunct professor in personal finance. He wears many hats here in Cincinnati. He is a go-to person for when people need help, assistance, strategies. He's strong in marketing and communications. He's strong in organizational development. And he's going to be talking today from two different vantage points, from a nonprofit vantage point, as well as a for-profit, specifically a family-owned business for-profit. And I know he will talk on the legacy and the challenges of working with family and how you overcame those challenges. And even in this pandemic, all the different things that he had to create, develop, and build in that organizational development and build resiliency within both of those organizations to grow, to strengthen, and to continue to have a constructive and positive sustaining impact on the greater Cincinnati community. So with that being said, I will turn it over to you, Dr. Walker. Feel free to give any other additional information you want about yourself, and then we'll get into the subject matter at hand.
All right. Well, thank you for the invitation, Ms. Twitty. I'm really nervous and excited at the same time. You had Dr. Owens, so I got to follow behind him. So hopefully you guys will be patient with me. So thank you for the invitation.
So with let's start out with just giving us an overview of how both organizations, the nonprofit and the for-profit side, how you had to navigate that when the pandemic hit. Even on the nonprofit side, you had to do a total reorganization. We're in a total reorganization, right?
Right.
And then the pandemic hit. So you finally got people up and running, and then it's like all this uncertainty, but you still had to grow, and the organization still kept growing throughout that pandemic. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So I'll give you both sides. So the profit side, my family owns a funeral home. And so with the funeral home, there is no set hours. It's 24/7, 365. As you all know, death does not take a break. One thing we can be certain of, one of my members said, well, Pastor, I don't go to funerals. And I said, you're going to go to one. We all have that. we all, you know, that's a part of it. So with that being said, the pandemic, the COVID, forced our hand. And if you think about the COVID epidemic, we should have been doing certain things, such as washing your hands. And I'm out in the public, constantly shaking hands, kissing babies, things of that nature. And so there's a lot of germs. So with that being said, within the funeral home business, we never stopped, and we've seen a rapid growth because of COVID. And so even that, we didn't know what we were dealing with. We were trying to get educated on it. And so if you know anything about the industry, we had to get a whole separate facility just for COVID patients because we didn't know. We still was trying to figure out, could we still catch it even when someone passed away? If you would have seen our attire, you looked like we were going to space because we were covered from head to toe to stay protected. And so and it hit all of us. I had family members that passed away from COVID. And so I had a dear personal friend, a college classmate that passed away from COVID. I could not go to the service. So with that being said, social media, streaming became very important in our industry. Typically in the funeral business, it's such a private entity and a personal entity, but we had to move on streaming very quickly so that people that were in the city and outside the city could see their loved ones. On the nonprofit side was a church. So in a sense, it's hand in hand. In the church, both organizations is really a 24/7, 365 organization. And so I inherited an older congregation that was not social media savvy, was not online giving savvy. And so it kind of forced my hand and made us push quickly. The good thing about it on both sides, I didn't have any opposition. If anything, both sides, nonprofit and profit, they like change, and that's very different for our community and our development. Is that when people want change? A lot of times, people, even in today's society, 2022, we're trying to run businesses on an 8-track mentality. And like I say, we have to be advanced. So it was encouraging to see both sides that were used to doing certain things a certain way was okay with change and improvement. So that helped tremendously. So I said, on a nonprofit side, dealing with a church, dealing with older people, some people have never been on Instagram, never been on Facebook. So it became lessons. Instead of one service, it became 3 services online, learning how to do online giving. We all know in the society, we deal with a lot of hackers. People are very nervous about doing online banking, online giving. And so trying to get people to trust themselves to give online, to have production. So with that COVID a lot of things, nonprofits, we had to shut down. We had to do everything online. Well, it was a blessing in disguise because while we were shut down, we didn't stay stagnant. We wasn't on a treadmill. You know anything about a treadmill? You can get on a treadmill and walk 3 miles. And when you're done with a treadmill, guess what? You're still in the same spot. Luckily, we wasn't in that same spot. So while we were closed down, we were able to renovate, to do a lot of updates. And so with that being said, um, typically you think about business, you can look at it as a gift or a curse, and we choose to look at it as a gift. And so it's been a gift on both sides. So on the business side with the funeral home, it made us further, and it's been in talks, about doing some advancing. So you all know in business, we need proper planning for disasters. And our society, we're used to this. We're used to recessions. It's nothing new for us. The biggest thing is, how do you adjust to it?
Okay. So some of the key things that you talked about were organizational development components of it. So continuous improvement of product services, increased communication. So how you use social media, the streaming, things like that. And then a commitment to the staff and team development. So learning how to adjust, right? And learning the new technologies. And a lot of the things that you're doing, even with the funeral home, even though COVID, some people like to say it's gone away. It hasn't gone away. It's just that
Right.
we are more educated about it and know how to
Uh-huh.
manage it, right? And manage around it. We have better protocols in place than we did 2 years ago, but those numbers are still high, right? And then so the fear factor is down. But despite that, the staff, the teams, the volunteers, um, are still um, that commitment to their growth is, I think, also key to the organizations developing and sustaining and shifting to the new ways of work and play and living.
Yeah.
So um, I'm going to shift just a little bit and want to switch over more to the Walker funeral home side. And for those of you who do not know, Herb Walker was the founder, and that's who the funeral home was named after. He was very active with the Cincinnati Hamilton County Community Action Agency. That's where I knew him from when he was living. And he had a legacy, right, of helping others. He had a legacy of um, the self empowerment, self sufficiency. So he didn't take no excuses. He didn't pull no punches. He was very direct and held you accountable. Um, can you speak to some of the challenges when Walker Funeral Homes first started, and just dealing with family members, right? Because
Yeah.
now you have to navigate, you know, the when you're at work and when you're at home, and how to separate that. So I've
Yeah.
experienced some of that myself. So
First of all, that's a great question, and I figured you would have some very good questions. I think when we first started, my uncle that you talked about was in the Community Action Agency. He was in the NAACP, and from a child, any time with his jobs at the mail post office, he taught us about giving back, and so his son was a type of person that he was a community developer. And what he did was he would buy small businesses and sell businesses in DC and Virginia, things of that nature. And so, true story, one time, one of our family members passed away at one of the local funeral homes, and my family member struggled to pay for the funeral. And when we seen the price of the funeral, we were just like blown away. And so my cousin ended up buying a small funeral home and really buying it to sell. And so when he started getting to the services, he started seeing how our community was being really overpriced. And so he did something that nobody else, ever did. He did really least expensive. We never say cheap in business because nothing is cheap. Least expensive, but the least expensive funeral looked like it was a grand service. And so my cousin is very shy. And so at the time in the business never had a face. They didn't know Walker was Caucasian, was white, was black. we was just serving the community. And so we began to, grow. And so, like I said, very nice services. And we had a multicultural facet business. And so my cousin being my cousin was in a place of being the CEO, bringing the president, bringing the owner. Many times when you're in business, you don't get the compliments, you get the complaints. When you're top dog, you get all the complaints. And so my cousin was in a place where all he heard was complaints, 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 complaints. And so he was at a point where his typical business style was to build up the company and sell. And so he knew a company was coming, another funeral home was coming into the area. And so he wanted to partner up with this company because he felt like his employees can make more money, better investments, better insurance, things of that nature. So he ended up selling. Very, very long story short, don't want to go into too much detail. He ended up partnering with this company. The other partner side did not keep his obligations. And so at that point, he knew, and we knew, coming back with the part two of Walker, when he started going to the community, all the community was saying, "We miss you. Where are you at? We love you. You took care of us," and things of that nature. But again, and that's a lesson within itself about your surroundings and what you're hearing. When you're hearing negativity, you got to cancel that negativity and hear the positive as well. And so he never knew that he was a pillar of the community. He never knew that people really loved him and really liked him. And on top of that, he missed the business. And so when we came back, he knew that we had to do a different strategy. And so this time around, instead of Walker not having a face, he was ready to put a face to it. And I think he chose a really good face. So I'm gonna be honest with you. So he met with me coming back the second time. I was in corporate America, trying to rise into corporate America, and excited about corporate America. And he made me an offer. And the first thing I said is, I do not want to work with dead people. It's a dead end job. Y'all missed that. Y'all catch that when y'all go home. I said, I don't want to do it. No way. And so I was at a Fortune 500 company making really good money. And I said, no way. I'm not going to no funeral home business. It's dark. It's morbid. Not me. I got laid off. The next day I called and said, now, what about this job? What about this funeral home business thing? So long story short, got into the funeral home business. And who knew, with my background, it's deeper than just death. It's a way to help people, especially at their mourning stage, and like I say, you can have a beautiful funeral home and don't have to go broke doing it. And so the second phase coming around with the family, yes, we had family members, and yes, we have to let some family members, being in this industry, dealing with thousands of people in the Cincinnati tri-state area. To answer your question, Ms. Twitty, a lot of times on the other end, I'm a pastor. There's been times I preach at other churches, and people come up, want to talk about a funeral. I'll be at, a restaurant with my family, and somebody will come up and say, "Oh, you did my son's funeral," and Kroger's or whatever the case may be. And then there's the opposite end. Some people have complaints. I'm out with my kids trying to walk the dog, and I got to hear complaints. So that's the thing in our industry. Our business doesn't stop. Like I said before, it's not a 9-to-5 type job. When someone passes away, you don't know what else to do. And a lot of times the first person they call is me, whether it's 2:00 in the morning, 1:00 in the morning. And that's not the time to say, call me back at 9. No, you got to serve the people right then and there because they've never lost a loved one. And so there are some challenges, but I believe there's more benefits than challenges. And so who knew? For my cousins seen something in me, God seen something in me to know that I can be in the industry. But for me and for the company, we choose to celebrate life. We realize death comes, but I'm trying and still trying to turn that Walker Funeral Home, that Walker name, to more than just death. But I'm here to celebrate life. So with that being said, and I hope I'm not talking too much, it's kind of going.
Going.
Okay. It's kind of going hand in hand with the church into the funeral home. And so my stance with the funeral home, I've been out in the community, in my area alone, in Walnut Hills area, we had a lot of homicides. And so for me, I'm an advocate of balance, stopping the balance, opioid and the drugs. My thing is celebrating life. We want to do funerals from people that are 90 and up, not 16, not 15. Really quick, around prom, about 2 years ago, I walked into a school and I had two guys with me, and we walked in with a casket. They asked me to be the keynote speaker. I walked in with a casket. They didn't know what I was doing. And you could hear a hush over the crowd. And so I walked in and I told them, I want y'all to enjoy your prom. I said, but don't drink and drive because you don't want to see me. You don't want to see these guys. And most of all, you don't want to be in this casket. And you would have, it was a hush. The teachers was just so amazed because, again, we're just bring life. And so you all know, one false move, one bad decision, now you're at a funeral. So great question.
And can you speak on some of the strategies that you employ, even just with the reorganization of the church? Because even though it's a church, I think that you need to talk about them because it's applicable to any organization, right? Especially in a nonprofit, especially when you're dealing with a lot of volunteers, right? So the members are volunteering their time; they don't have to be there, right? And let's talk
Yeah,
about, like the morale building. Um, Me and you talked in detail on a lot of
absolutely.
the plans, but you can't talk to everybody like that. You had to kind of
Right.
to do it in small steps, right? And how you manage your patience because you're used to moving at a faster pace as you were getting the congregation up. So, like I said, that's not just the church, even though we're using that as an example, but it's also applicable to any nonprofit organization. So, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I hope I'm not sharing too much, but
Oh no.
when I first, uh, just give me a signal if I'm talking too much. But honestly, when I first got to the church, one of the first people I met was Miss Twitty, and so it was a crowd of people when she came up and talked to me, and I'm listening to her, and I said, okay, I said, let's lunch. And one of the things she said to me, she said, she very sincerely, she said, thanks for listening. And I'm like, what? She's like, no, just thank you for even if we don't go to lunch, thank you for listening. And so later on, I was like, well, why did you make that comment? She said, because a lot of times leadership doesn't listen or they even act like they're listening. So I was like, I took that as okay. So when I first got here, like I say, inheriting the older congregation is really listening. Before I cast out vision and see what we need to do and start to run, let me hear the concerns. I think with organizations, we're so busy trying to get out to the community, and sometimes we need to look within, whether that's your home, whether that's your organization, your business. Let's find the needs of my employees and what's really going on. Because again, if you can't follow the vision, we'll be a sinking ship. And so one of the things that I had to do was just first of all listen. Before I go any further, listen. And a lot of times, where were we at? Where we've been. Sometimes we're trying to reinvent the wheel. It doesn't need to be reinvented. It just need to refresh. We can use those same things. There's nothing new under the sun. And so a lot of times the things that we've been doing, like I say, 8-track. Look at the evolution of 8-track. I don't think anybody has an 8-track. Went from 8-track to tapes to CDs to now we can live it online. And it's okay. But guess what? The main thing is still music. So it's the same thing with organization to say, we may not do it this way. You know, uh, we used to do brochures. We don't need brochures anymore. You got social media. So I think, first of all, listening and seeing this and assessing and see what are the strengths. What are the strengths? Finding the proper people to put them in place, right? But here's the thing, and really not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but looking at people's strengths. A lot of times we have a small organization that you're trying to put together and volunteers. A lot of times you have a group of people that does everything. It does, and a lot of times what I've seen, they do everything and they do it average. So what I've tried to do here is say, okay, even if we have to pause on certain activities, I want to get you your strength. I'd rather have 2 activities and we perfect it than 20 activities and they're all average or below average. So we may have to pause on some things. And so finding the right people to say, is this really your strength? And even eventually, if they're not good at it, I think the more and more they do it, they'll get better. When you really find your niche, you find your purpose, you find your calling, you're going to get better because and then I need people in those positions because I can motivate to a certain extent. But if I have to jump in the pit and start doing it, why do I need you? So again, find those right people because again, not going out and doing things on your own, so to speak, but you're thinking about it constantly. And people have said, I had to correct somebody. Somebody said, you can't fire the volunteer. I say, yes, you can, because the volunteer can ruin your organism. So really it's finding the right people. So with what I've inherited, and here's a good thing too, I have really good people. I have really good people that want to grow. They've seen the struggle. They don't want to struggle no more. And so again, and not only listening, but building relationships, because a lot of times I'm trying to walk slow and the people say, no, we ready to run. So that's a good thing. So that's been good. And also, last but not least, patience. Just being patient. It happen overnight. When I discouraged, when I get low, just realize it won't happen overnight. And people like I say, I have people like Twitty can tell me that they can encourage me and say, you're doing good, or, oh, hold on, don't go down that road. Oh, be careful. And in me, listen and say, okay, no, and being honest with myself, because sometimes when you're the CEO, you're president, you think you know everything. No, you're not. You're only as good as your counsel. I'm a Bible preacher. The Bible says, in a multitude of good counsel, there's safety. And for me, I want to be safe.
So what I hear you saying is that you did some asset mapping, right? You did some asset mapping of the organization, of the people assets, the physical assets, and then said, okay, here's the long-term goal, but this is how we can get there. Here are the short-term goals, right? And then
Absolutely.
you move people, right? You have what you call the power of
Actually,
three.
now, let me cut you in there. I just I moved them over in this position. Like I say, we have an organization. Like I say all the time, you want volunteers, and a lot of times people may not volunteer. And so here it is. And so I keep saying we got to use our brain. We have this man who's cooking the food, and he burns the food every week, but we're too afraid to tell him he's burning the food because we don't want to hurt his feelings because he's a volunteer. Where he's in the kitchen, he should be in the parking lot, or he should be the maintenance guy. And so that's like you said, assessing to see it's an everyday process. We just need to move you over here. That's all. So go ahead.
That's why I said you're shifting to where they can be most beneficial for the organization. And then sometimes people are, like you said, are just in a routine of doing everything, so they just do it the same way. But then when you talk to them and listen, it's like, hey, you got all these talents. I can really use you over here. And then they say, oh, okay, I'll try that. You're right. And so you're building community even within the organization. Um, so that's one thing. Another thing is the constant communication and trust that your people have talents, right?
Absolutely.
Trust that your people have talents. And if you listen, once again, listen, now you know how to maximize those talents. So that is applicable to any organization. So, and then and personally, in other jobs that I've had to go through reorganization, had to be one of the champions of the reorganization. And when somebody might have came in at this spot, but they've gotten education, training, experience. Now they really are interested over here, and they're better fit over there because they have morphed and grown, right? So recognizing that growth, I was like, oh, we can use you over here. And then they're happy. The morale goes up, right? So it's really that building a community even within an organization so that you can serve the community on the outside. So the next thing that I would like to kind of tap into is how you utilize your different leadership positions. Um, and last week we were talking about branding, influencing, and marketing, and how they're intertwined to increase the footprint. And a lot of things that you do, even with the Walker Funeral Home, right, is that you all sponsor activities that you all support have nothing to do with the funeral, right? And it builds that it is a family-owned business, right? And that they're part of the community. So can you speak to different strategies that you've utilized um, to position the different organizations that you've run and using that and being that influence or increasing their footprint in the areas that they serve?
Okay. First of all, Oprah Winfrey, you're the next Oprah Winfrey because you have some amazing questions, and you need your own show. Okay, let me get that out the way. Wow, that is an amazing question. You did your research. Dang, I'm very impressed. Okay, great question. Wow. All right. So with the Walker Funeral Home, going back to what you said, like your word branding. So when we first started, we didn't have a face, and that was a good thing because we became a multicultural company. When we went through the lawsuit and went through some stages, at that point we knew we had to shift to be a face, and we are the face. Okay, and we knew the struggles of being a small black business, and so now we're doing very well. And so through much a conversation, um, looking at the branding, now we're at the place where we're saying, okay, we're not at top, but we're fairly close. How can we reach back and help other businesses? And so with our marketing, you all know marketing is key. How can people know you have um, uh, something good if you don't market? You know, a multi-billion-dollar company, burger company that you all know with golden arches, they're still investing in marketing. And everybody knows about the secret sauce, but they're still doing 2 for $6 and they're still doing specials because they understand the marketing piece. So with us, we have marketing dollars, but we've decided even this year and last year to not only do a Black business spotlight, but do a pillar of the community because there's so many people in our community that's doing very well. And we're just saying we want to recognize them. And like you said, it does not have anything to do with funeral. We're just saying we're a Black business. We recognize we're a Black business, and we know that Black businesses need help. So, so that's what we have, tried to do to help people in our community, to make people aware. And just to let you all know, since we've been doing it, people have told us their business has almost 30%, went up 30%. We don't get anything from it, but we realize that, hey, somebody helped us at one point. And so it's our job to come and reach and help somebody else. Even for the nonprofit, side, a lot of it is building foundation. And I always tell people, if somebody coming to the nonprofit, what are they coming for? It's got to be more than just Brian Walker. That could be the face that can get them in the door, but what makes them stick and stay and not walk through the front door to go out the back door? So things have to be in the organization. And so some people need a word, some people need a song, but some people just need support. Some people need touring. Some people need to be bilingual, whatever the case may be. And of course, on both ends of the spectrum, people eat with their eyes. There's plenty of restaurants. The food is not all that good, but the ambiance, the surroundings, the service is so great. The conversation is great. And so on both sides, what we seek to do is cut out the excuses. You can't make excuses that our facilities are not nice, our cars are not nice, our prices are reasonable. The nonprofit, you got to, the ambiance is nice, the convenience is nice. But with both sides, especially on the profit side, you have to have competitive wages. You have to have people that like what they're doing, especially in the funeral home business, a morbid, dark world. Customer service is very important, not only service. So from the top, bottom, the whole team has to make sense. Even the tone of your voice when someone calls in, I'm a jokester. Many of y'all know that I love to laugh, but there's a time and place that when somebody's calling and they're just saying that their young kid just got murdered or got in an accident, that's not a time for jokes. So there's everything. And so the sensitivity on that end. So communication, customer service. So the whole known for excellence, trusted for value. On the other end, the nonprofit, living in an area where gentrification is taking place. My area. So with that, I have to evolve and change as well. Let's be honest with you. We're a Baptist church, but I didn't necessarily take out the Baptist, but it's BC, Bethel Church. Why? Because I don't want people to think that this is a Baptist church. No, we're a church. And so if you're apostolic, Methodist, whatever the case may be, you're welcome. You're not going to feel secluded in our church because we're here to serve the community. Because you have no community, you have no church. And that's on both ends, whether it's profit or nonprofit. So the marketing is very important. And so here's the thing. The marketing, it lets them know about your product and it gets you in the door. Once you get them to that table, once you get in the door, what do you have for them? and that's the infrastructure that is constantly on both sides. You have to constantly refresh, rebuild constantly. And so that can be a job within itself, and it is. But really staying close to the people, seeing the needs of the people. And I've said it all the time, whether it's nonprofit or profit, if people have some questions, are you the answer? There's a dilemma. Are you the answer? Can you fix my issue? Can you fix my problem? Can you do it reasonably and effectively? I think you're on your way.
And Ambrose, do you have a question? You have that look. You know, when you get used to working with people, you see their body language, and I see his, you got him
Well,
going, Dr. Walker.
well, when Dr. Walker just made reference to, being the answer, if, they have a question, are you the answer? They have a need, are you the answer? That is a very powerful and succinct way, I think, to for one to view their business model, their product or service that they're putting out into the marketplace. So that was sort of the first time hearing it expressed in that way, and I think that's a very powerful expression of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I wanted
Just,
to
I-
just
I-
give some. Oh, go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
Well, just to follow up on that, I was really caught by that too. And I don't know, I would just love just to hear kind of Dr. Walker. I mean, do you see that? I feel like I've heard that you've helped the church kind of reinvent itself. And have you applied that same, have you seen that work in that setting, in the nonprofit setting, as well as in the business
Absolutely.
setting?
Absolutely. Amber knows the story. I came into a situation where I was in a church that's broken, that's hurt. A lot of people had left. And so one of the things that I told them, a lot of people are trying to go outside, outreach, outreach, outreach. And I said, the first 3 years is in reach. And what I mean by that is you need to heal, from disappointment, for whatever case may be. And so my first year was more or less healing, forgive, getting some understanding, and the people that may have left to come back and to say, okay, you left. Why did you leave? And so some of that stuff is checking my pride, my doctor at the door to say, okay, what do I need to do to serve you? What do I need to put in place to serve you for the community? So absolutely, and that's a continuous basis because again, with me personally, when I first got here, I have 3 churches. I have over 200 people in sick and shut in. That's in nursing homes. Then I got the physical church, and now I got a new church online. So I got people from Florida, Texas, everybody looking. And so I got to be in a place where how can I reach the multitude? I know for a fact I can't reach it by myself. So right now, even now, I had to put a team in place. So some of the people, I have an office manager who's my aunt, who sometimes thinks she's my. Y'all ain't hearing me. Y'all don't have family members. Y'all don't know what I go through. She's integral and she's vital. That way I can move and groove and know I have some stability. And then it's finding people within this organization that's been there and done that to be advisors. And then we got to get younger. Like Amber was saying earlier about the education piece. How do you get younger? And so now it's a different animal that we're facing because in the church, we need to see a crowd in front of us. Now with COVID, and COVID is still here, we got to be safe. This organization has to be safe. So the mental aspect to say, when you don't see that big crowd, can you still understand? You still got a crowd, but now it's a national crowd online. So of course, and that's still ongoing. That's still getting to know people, and I'm mature enough to know you're gonna make some mistakes, and that's okay. I'm still going to learn people. I might put somebody in a wrong position. We might have did a project and had bad workers that took advantage of us. It's a part of it. Even in this organization, we talk about in our community, some workers, I can tell you right now, I've gave workers, even in a church, opportunity, and they did me wrong. It's okay. I gave people an opportunity. They did me wrong. I can't let that person that did me wrong let the next person suffer. Same thing with leadership. Give them a chance. It failed. It's okay. We'll find something else for you. So absolutely, and I'm not done with that. It's still in process. I'm still working on that to be the answer.
Yeah, it's making me think a little bit. I read an article recently, and they were saying that there's one characteristic, that's what caught me, the title, right? There's one characteristic that distinguishes a good leader from everybody else. I was like, I got to know what that is. And they said curiosity. Yeah. Like, that is interesting.
That's good.
But I see that with you, right? You're curious about who's this person in front of me and what's their strength, and how could I position them to really live into that purpose in their life. And that's where growth happens, right? So I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. But the thing is, to answer your question, that comment, I'm usually on the other side. I'm usually the Amber Twitty. I'm usually asking the questions, and so a lot of times people are not asking me the questions. So I'm like, wow, these are great questions, because I'm usually asking the questions. But yeah, absolutely.
I had to be ready. So moving through the pandemic, being more resilient to the pandemic and growing, what are some of the things that you're doing in your organization to diversify, whether it's the income, the programming, things like that, so that all these things that you've done throughout this process, these last couple years, so that now that you've gained a larger footprint, that you're maintaining that footprint and even growing from there? And what are some of the things that strategies that you have employed?
Good. Oh, man. Okay, so the profit side, right now we're renovating our chapels. Our strategic plan was to make sure that our chapels are easily accessible off the expressway. So now what's happening, we are trying to really transition to make sure we're handicap accessible. Not only that, our digital, we're really enhancing our digital and our digital marketing. All right, that's on the profit side. On the nonprofit side, in church, we like to hug, we like to fellowship and things of that nature. So now, yes, COVID is not over, but we're still now starting to transition to opening back up. And so, like I said before, when I first got here on the nonprofit side, I was trying to go and meet every member, trying to go to the hospitals and to go to the nursing homes. And so when the pandemic hit, we met with city officials, and they were saying, stay out the hospitals, stay out the nursing homes. And so even now, I've been going on 3 years, and people that have been in this organization for 10 to 15 years, they come every Sunday. I don't know their name, because we're still wearing masks, we're still doing the hand sanitizer, we're still keeping the protocol. And so even as we transition, I know at some point in an intellectual way, it's got to be a bridge to say, okay, who are you? What's your skill set? And what do you like to do? And so again, slowly but surely, not being in a hurry, not being too aggressive, here and there. So we're coming back slowly. So what we're doing now, I think we're learning from this pandemic, and that we have to be ahead of the curve. And so I think that's the conversation of how we can be more effective. If you've seen these restaurants, a lot of these people's restaurants that I know went out of business, but the ones that are successful, they adjusted. I'm not going to name any names, but I seen one, Chick-fil-A. I was in a line. Instead of a window, they now have a door to walk out to serve their clients. They have adjusted. And with this pandemic, we had to adjust quickly. So what we have done on the opposite side, the business side, now we have reserves. What I mean by that, just in case something happened, we have to have a reserve account to hit it real quick. And that's what I'm trying to build in the organization piece. We've said it. Grandma said it. Now we put these nice words to it, reserves. No, put some money away for a rainy day. That's what Grandma was trying to tell us, that in case something goes down, we're ready. So staying ahead of the curve, that if an issue coming, that there's not always going to be sunshiny days, but really putting reserves away to say, if we need to make an adjustment, we need to make it quick.
And that speaks to the resiliency, right?
Absolutely.
And as you still continue to grow, because growth speaks to how you increase, how you develop. People think it's just that, but it's also how you mature, right? And so taking
And
on.
then another thing too is the confidence that you will grow. You know, even on a nonprofit side, to say the people are going to come, they're coming. When they come, what do you have for them? On the business side, you know, they're coming. What are you going to do when they come? Are the people in place? So even when it's slow on both sides, like I said, bringing other people outside of the organization for motivational speaking, for encouraging, for discipline, things of that nature, incentive, doing new incentives. The volunteer piece, you can't, pay everybody, but we try to get some type of incentive. I try at the end of the year to give a little Christmas bonus, things of that nature. But most of all, saying that we appreciate it and constantly keeping the goal in front of them. That at the end of the day, it's not about us. You're not doing it just for you. You're doing it for someone else, because everybody at some point in their life was down on their luck, was in a bad situation, and somebody helped them out.
So another thing is, with organizations, specifically nonprofit organizations. And speaking of reserves, you don't have profits, you have reserves, right? Um, but also, what my takeaway is from our discussion today is that even though it's a nonprofit, it has a common good for the public as far as its mission. You still have to run it like a business, right? You still have those core organizational development. You still have to be innovative. You have to be what as Eric has called our team, intrapreneurs. So not just an entrepreneur within an organization, so that you can stay fluid and flexible. Would you agree with that, and have any comments or words of wisdom to add to that?
Absolutely. On a nonprofit side, and I'm still establishing. Like I say, we were on our way. We were rolling really, really, really well, and so that pandemic had. I'm not gonna say it put us behind, but it made us change focus in a good way. So people are starting to come back, and so we still want to do the events and things of that nature. So one of the things that I'm trying to implement and am implementing is annual calendar. And what I mean by that, as people start to get understanding, I always say promotion, planning. Proper planning prevents problems. So planning, right? So I'm saying our calendar, on May 29th, that's our graduation Sunday. That's every year. And so if we have this calendar, come November, if it's a retreat, if it's going to a hotel for a weekend, getting a group of people together that's interested in the organization, that's a leadership, that represents a multitude of people. I sit on several boards, and in the boards they have a young person, they have a business person, they have an older person, because you need several lenses. So we can look back on that calendar, and no one gets their feelings hurt, to say what was good, what was bad, what was ugly, what worked, what didn't work. Okay, are we going to do it again? No, that wasn't effective. Okay, that was effective. And if so, let's have an honest conversation. Say, what can we do to make it better? All we're trying to do is to be an airplane. I think most organizations fail because they don't want to be an airplane. They want to be a helicopter. They want to go straight up. And if you have that mentality that you go straight up, guess what? You're going to come straight down. And so in any organization, you have to go slow, and then land, not go up, because that's the puff of it all. That's the I call it sugar. That's the sugar rush. No, you need vegetables. You need the water. You need all that. Don't get me wrong. I love Sun-Kissed strawberry in the freezer for about 10 minutes, real slushy. It's wonderful. You should try it. But you need that water. So yes, that's what we're trying to do, and we're still trying to do, is to assess and have some serious, honest conversation. If you want the organization to live and to thrive and to be healthy.
So constant evaluation, constant communication, constant input, constructive input, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, right? But
Exactly.
being able to take it, even if it might bruise your ego or hurt your feelings.
Exactly. Yeah.
But knowing that it's coming from a place because everybody's committed to make the organization grow. and
Exactly.
you need to have those hard conversations. So um, I think that, yeah, I, I see you doing that on a regular basis. So, and also within the organization, especially in nonprofit, I think a lot of people think that you're only allowed to do one thing, um, but you have to be resilient, right, as well. And so you have to have different ways to help sustain the organization and simultaneously um, emulate the mission, right?
Absolutely.
So I think in the nonprofit world, the social enterprise is something that you have started embarking on. And can you kind of give us some of the your thoughts and feelings and how that is moving and progressing, and how
Yeah.
you think that will help the organization as a whole? Because I think nonprofits
Uh,
need to start thinking about that,
thi-
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you look at the faith-based community, what we grew offering, tithes and offering, and so with our financial situation, you know, we can't depend on a person giving a tithes or offering, right? And so we have to have multiple streams of income. And so right now, at this organization, I'm in the process of starting a daycare. I have some other organizations, and so what I'm trying to do is make this organization 24/7, 365. That there's no excuses. You know, I have narcotics and drug rehab and things that I'm talking to now. I have a big building that's sitting empty, and so doing AA. And so tutorial kids are you. So again, back in the day, people came to church for all the answers. And somewhere, some way, we missed it. I want to go back to that. That you, whatever you need, you can come to this faith-based organization, color, creed, denomination, gender, whatever the case may be. If you need help, shouldn't you be the place to come here? And that's the faith-based. I think sometimes we miss that, and instead of being a faith base or a church, we become a social club, a community club, a status club. And that's why, again, the whole Baptist piece, you know, you don't have to be Baptist to come here. You just need to be in need. Again, going back to the earlier comment, if you're coming in here with questions, we have to be a place where we got the answer. And if we don't have the answer here, we have enough connects to find you the answer that you're looking for. So I think we have to be in the place that we're looking at multiple streams. Why? Because we need these streams of incomes. Why? To help the community. At the end of the day, we do pray. And don't get me wrong, I pray and I have faith. But sometimes people need their rent paid. They need groceries. They need food. And while we're praying, at least we have the funds to help people get out of their situation.
All right. And just switching gears back to the small business side, just wanted to give a couple of facts. I don't think a lot of people know that as early as recent as 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, family owned businesses, small family owned businesses, represented 64% of the US gross national product, not just our state, but the US. So with our team here under the Community Economic Development team, we spend a lot of time for one of those reasons, because you have so many small and family owned businesses. And even in Ohio last year, um, 99% of the businesses in Ohio are small businesses.
Wow.
So we spend a lot of time in that space, even though we still do workforce development, we still do personal and professional development, organizational development, but a lot of time is spent in that space with entrepreneurs, and we're real committed to when businesses start up, giving them the information so that they start up correctly. And so I appreciate the conversation we had today, just because it kind of is a continuum of that. It's taking, once you start up, that now what? Well, here are the things that you need to do to continue on that path, that airplane takeoff, right? That you said, not the helicopter where you go straight up, you hover in the same place, and then you crash right back down, right? So I'm gonna use that,
Got
and
it.
everybody put it in the chat. So we're gonna use that in future trainings. But um, just just um just real happy that you joined us today, And before we close out, just like to do a round robin of any closing remarks or comments. I think James Keys, who is on here, he is typing something. So as soon as he finished typing, oh, he's coming on. Okay.
Hey, I
Come
couldn't
on,
I
James.
couldn't type I couldn't type fast enough. So I was like, hey, let me get this in real quick. So good evening, Dr. Walker. Hey, my name is James Keys. I'm also with Central State University. My question was, how have you addressed the health concerns, the major health concerns within your church community? And what are some of the opportunities do you see with that? Like I'm saying, like a diabetes or smoking or vaping or all those kind of concerns. So how are you addressing that, being that the church is the place to come for the solutions?
Great question. Just about a month and a half ago, I called the church on a fast, a corporate fast. This was their first fast. And so what we did, they didn't know, but my strategy was, it really was a diabetical fast. And so I gave them some ground rules as far as, intermittent fast. They can eat between 12 and 8, no carbs, no sugar, all water, no smoking, no drinking. And they went crazy with that drinking. I got to drink in church. I think they like Hennessy, something they said. I don't know. But anyway, but we put
Oh
these ground.
no, not the Hennessy.
Yeah.
No.
So for about 3 weeks before the fast, I taught about the Bible, and I taught about the health, and I really focused on the health piece. I gave them brochures, gave them packets, and so they complained, they were mad about it. But long story short, they went on the fast. A lot of them lost weight. We did it for 21 days. You all know the 21 days. That kills the habit. And so the main thing I was saying: no smoking, no drinking at all, no pop, no coffee. And then within that fast, at least 20 minutes of cardio. Now, the whole strategy of the thing was not only for spiritually, but for health reasons. Because again, I got an older congregation that still smokes, that are diabetic, that have high blood pressure, things of that nature. And so from a result from that fast, a lot of people are still doing it, and they're losing weight. And so I'm still trying to continue the health pick. Even in this church, I want to be a holistic, financial, physical, spiritual. I think when you think about church, we only think about spiritual. And the same people that are praying got high blood pressure, overweight, they're dying. But they pray to this God, but they don't use the practical thing. And so we're still trying to do the health piece, still talking to our children, because now you got kids that are vaping at 14. Why? Because they see their parents do, and they take it from the purse. They just want to try it. So we're still trying to educate, and that's it again, going hand in hand. That's the nonprofit church aspect. But again, I'm also telling them we have to get these things in order, because on the business side, you don't want to see me. I got a casket. I tell people, come on down to the funeral home. I got a casket your size. Go on in there and see how I feel. You don't want to see me. So, and with that being said, it's still ongoing. So I got that situated. I'm in the process of transition once this kind of COVID settles down. It's something called walking worship. We're going to do walking. We're going to do a physical exercise with the men, and then with the women, we're going to do a Zumba class. So we're still doing a health kick. I have a pantry. I'm in the process of renovating my pantry. I'm bringing a chef. I'm bringing in good food, good healthy food, and telling them that you can eat a stuffed mushroom, a stuffed pepper, and to try different things. Because if I'm giving you this fresh food for free, try these ingredients, try this kind of food, try different types of fruit. You're not paying for it, so why not try it? Mikey said, try it. You might like it. So that's what we're working on.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for sharing that. I look forward to connecting with you further. So awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Amber.
And I'll make sure I'll connect you too, because actually
sir.
James is on our Family and Consumer Sciences team, FCS team. So he has a lot of neat programming that I think will be aligned with some of the things that you're mapping out. So it'll be a good time for you all to have a conversation to see if any of that fits in.
Absolutely.
Right on. Thanks, Amber. Thanks,
Thank
Doc.
you.
All right.
Ambrose and Eric, do you all have any closing remarks?
Now, I just want to thank Dr. Walker for sharing with us today. I've learned a lot, and I've gotten been impacted by the perspective and the presentation of that. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been writing some notes down. One thing I noticed you were very intentional with using the word. It's not just an organization; it's an organism, whether it's a
Exactly.
business or a church or whatever. But and that organism needs to be healthy and whole. And
Absolutely.
so the importance of community and um, that idea of uh, in reaching and outreaching, and again, it goes back to the idea of being healthy. And that's where growth happens and resilience happens, is when we're healthy and whole. And we can withstand those shocks that come our way, that are going to always come our way. So those are things I'll continue to contemplate.
Absolutely. Wonderful.
Proper planning prevents problems. That always stands out with me. And just your take on making sure that we listen to people, whoever we're working with, working for, or who's working for us, whether it's a volunteer, paid staff, colleague, team member, what have you. And so I truly appreciate all of the insights and the different strategies and just you being by example. You're not just talking and you're actually doing it out in the community. And you ask anyone here in the Cincinnati area, last week Dr. Owens was talking about how it, and all the different hats that he's worn, whether it was the in vitro fertilization doctor, whether physician, whether it was the Hamilton County um, coroner, or whether it was, run to being the president of Cincinnati State or the executive director and president of Interact for Health and entrepreneur over Ponderosas because he was entrepreneur over some Ponderosa franchises back in the day, all the things that he's done. But his personal brand is just as important as all of those different titles because no matter where he
Right.
shifted, he was still Dr. Owens, right?
Right. Right.
And that was his brand that continued through all of those different roles. And with you, I see that the same way. You're still Dr. Walker, right? He's still Pastor Walker. And so whether you are in the Walker Funeral Home, you're volunteering, you're helping other entrepreneurs, small businesses, etc., just motivating people, right, to be their best authentic selves. Your brand is Dr. Walker, right? And so appreciate um, your intentionality and authenticity. So with that, you're the pastor, so you always get the last word, but you do not have a football minute. You only have one real minute.
Okay.
That's an
Okay.
inside joke with you all.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you all. You guys have been a great panel. It was great talking to you all. And so I just appreciate, you all thinking about me, the talking. And so if I have to say one thing again, with this pandemic, with our community, one thing I can hold my head up on both sides with the pandemic. Our employees didn't have to go on unemployment. We continue to play our employees on the profit side. I have a staff on the nonprofit side. No one missed a check, which I'm happy for. And so again, I just thank you all just for inviting me. I'm excited to to work with you all and learn from you all. You guys did a great job, and you all need your own talk show.
And without further ado, this concludes our May 26, 2022 edition of CED Office Hour Live, where we focus on building resilience and growing your business during and post a pandemic. And thank you again, Dr. Walker, for being our guest speaker today. And
Thank you.
everyone have a great day.
All right, you too.
Thank you. Take care. Awesome.